Hello, this is Ian Rhodes, and I know this used to be the Game of Rhodes podcast, but now it's no longer titled that for obvious reasons. Why, the last season was pretty terrible, and I do not want to affiliate myself with that show anymore. This podcast will now be called Through the Lens with Ian Rhodes. For tonight's podcast, we are talking about the Snyder Cut continued. There is new news that just resurfaced by Zack Snyder himself off of his account of Vero, which is kind of like an Instagram app, where he uploaded storyboards of the scene in Justice League where Martha Kent and Lois Lane are talking about like Superman's death. In the Justice League film, it just ends with that, but in the storyboards, it shows that it wasn't Martha Kent. It actually transforms into Martian Manhunter. And as people in the DC Comics community would know, Martian Manhunter is a Martian that is a shapeshifter that is a member of the Justice League. He was in the Justice League cartoon show, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and very popular character, where he was actually a DLC character in the Injustice game. And Martian Manhunter was revealed to played as General Swanwick, which was in both Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. He was the Air Force general. You see, in Man of Steel, he's the one that doesn't trust Superman as much. And after revealing that, you can kind of see the parallels in the scene in Man of Steel where they're both face to face and how he is not afraid of Superman because he's actually almost as powerful as him because he is Martian Manhunter. And Zack Snyder revealing this is pretty insane in every possible way because this was like a theory going around since Man of Steel came out that General Swanwick was going to be Martian Manhunter. That first was going to be revealed in Batman Superman, then it was going to be revealed in Justice League, but then the whole Joss Whedon situation happened and that never happened, so that just got under the rug. And then Zack Snyder actually confirming this on Vero is actually pretty insane, and people want the Snyder Cut even more because Zack Snyder says everything he draws he shoots, and he said that he shot everything but the scene with General Swanwick. You see like him transforming back into General Swanwick. That's the only shot he did not shoot. And if you look at other posts he made, it shows multiple things that weren't in the film, like how Darkseid was originally supposed to be in the storytelling scene with Steppenwolf. It was actually not Steppenwolf at all. It was actually a young Darkseid, and you could see because he posted a VFX shot of a scene with Darkseid throwing down his hammer when it was actually in the film it was actually Steppenwolf, and you can tell by the terrible CGI they used to just make over Darkseid completely. And he also posted a picture of Darkseid in front of his warships when in the Justice League film it's actually Steppenwolf in front of his warships as well. And Zack Snyder has been posting a lot of things on his Vero site basically confirming the Snyder Cut's existence and like what is actually done and what has actually been shot when many people did not believe it at all. And this has been the Snyder Cut movement going forward even more and even more with like Zack Snyder basically releasing all this new information coming out. And when over the summer there was a campaign to release the Snyder Cut for the Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, and it basically raised money for suicide awareness because Zack Snyder's daughter, she killed herself tragically, and that's the reason why Zack Snyder stepped away from the film. And the Snyder Cut movement is supporting the suicide awareness with basically being able to promote the Snyder Cut, and like half the funds goes to the suicide awareness. And recently for the New York City Comic-Con that's happening right now, they actually bought a billboard to promote the Snyder Cut for Warner Brothers to see, because Warner Brothers didn't go to the San Diego Comic-Con. They're actually at the New York Comic-Con right now, and which is pretty hilarious because all this new information is coming out about the Snyder Cut with Martian Manhunter. Has people their minds are blowing up because that is a fan favorite, and having him in the film would have been amazing, which is originally in the Batman v Superman character poster for Aquaman, it's Unite the Seven. Was Martian Manhunter one of the seven, people would think, or was it Green Lantern? And now since Martian Manhunter was going to be in Justice League, he most likely would have been one of the seven. And this honestly has people wondering, would that change the overall story completely? Or because the last podcast I talked about was the actual 4 or 5 movie plan for Justice League, and it didn't really come anything about Martian Manhunter because no information has came out. But what if Martian Manhunter played a bigger role in the Justice League movie and the Justice League sequels of whatever has gotten done, if it would have ever been made. We don't know, but most likely he would have. And honestly, having all this new information about the Snyder Cut coming out, I really think it is a matter of time before Warner Brothers announces something about it. And probably the most likelihood of it coming out on DVD is not that high. Most likely it will come on Warner Brothers' new streaming site they're coming out with in a couple months. I think probably next year. I think it will be coming out, the new Warner Brothers streaming service. They might announce it to be on the streaming service, have more people go on join the streaming service to watch the film, which I could see happening, because Zack Snyder even said with one of his director cuts, because he had like this event that he showed all of his director cuts for his films, and he got asked questions about his Justice League cut, which is quite obvious, and he said that he has a finished cut of the film made, but he just can't release it because Warner Bros. Won't let him. And I feel like if this campaign keeps on happening, Warner Brothers will finally be able to release it, because people might say this is insane to do, but the same thing happened with Richard Donner's version of Superman 2, because Richard Donner was fired from Superman 2, and they got a new director to basically reshoot it and make it, and like years and years later, they actually finally got a Richard Donner cut of the film. It's honestly the same thing for Zack Snyder for Justice League, and it's honestly only a matter of time before the Snyder Cut comes to fruition and becomes a reality where people actually can watch. And it's not just to see like the different film. It's fine. It's about getting the director's vision out there, because all these studio meddling is very like harmful for like the director's vision, and it was basically ripped away from him, and it was really really sad and tragic, because it's not just a film for these guys. It's actually like they spend so much time creating these characters, and it's like an art for them, and basically taking this art they made and just ripping it up and starting again. It's no longer theirs. It's not even the same thing they even make. And honestly, the Snyder Cut, it stands more for just this Justice League film. It's showing for everywhere that these studios can't just take out what these guys made and just make it on their own, because they've spent so much time and effort on these films to be basically remade. And you can see that happening with the old Suicide Squad movie. They had to reshoot a bunch, and even with the Rogue One film, they had to reshoot. And you can see, because a bunch of studio meddling, so it's not really their vision at the end. It's more the studios, which is a problem, and it should be fixed, because honestly, you can get better films through the director's vision than the studio. You can see with Suicide Squad, which was a terrible film, after being meddled with the studio, and same with Justice League, after spending hundreds of millions of dollars for reshoots with Henry Cavill's mustache to basically CGI out Darkseid and re-put Steppenwolf in with a half-completed look, is honestly insane for a studio to do, to try to make a film more Marvel-esque than a more original and different type of viewing of a superhero genre. And I honestly think it's like a matter of time, as I said before the Snyder Cut actually comes out. And I know a lot of people cannot wait for that to happen. I, for one, if you cannot tell, am a firm believer of the Snyder Cut. And I think that once it comes out, there'll be less doubters. There'll be no doubters once it comes out, but once it's actually released, I feel like less studios will be trying to change the director's vision, which was, you can see this with the Joker film that just came out. That was his take on the Joker completely. This is what he wanted. This is what he thought was the best, and Warner Bros. Allowed that to happen, which blew my mind after watching the film, because it was probably the least comic book movie I've ever seen. And it was so good. It was a completely new take on the comic book genre, to have it so realistic and so brutal and like gruesome in a realistic way. And I feel with Joker having done so well, that we're gonna see a lot more different types of those movies from DC, and hopefully, because Joker's done so well, they'll actually release a Snyder Cut, because that was gonna be a darker Justice League film, and it was around like 3.5 hours, and I can't wait to see it, and see Martian Manhunter, of course, in the film. Well, that was Ian Rhodes with Through the Lens, and catch you next time when I talk about the DC streaming service and the features it has, and the new Titans show that it's actually on right now with season 2. Catch me next time.